Why do the biggest stars on the planet choose to be silenced? Not the obvious suspects, not the ones you've already heard about. I'm talking about the ones who smiled on the red carpet one day and were gone the next. What you are about to discover has been scrubbed from public records for a reason. There is a clause, buried deep inside the contracts of the most powerful entertainment companies on Earth. They don't call it a silencing clause, they call it a morality clause. But lawyers who've seen what's inside them have another name for it. They call it the civil death clause. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why certain celebrities disappear overnight, why their personalities change, why some of them stop talking forever, and why the ones who tried to speak up were not taken down by enemies. They were taken down by the very contract they signed on their best day. To understand what's happening today, we have to go back to 1921, a scandal so severe it forced an entire industry to write a new kind of contract. Fatty Arbuckle, he was the highest paid comedian in Hollywood, a bigger star than Charlie Chaplin at his peak. Then came the accusations, the trial, the acquittal, and then complete erasure. The studios couldn't legally convict him, so they did something far more effective. They inserted language into every future contract that gave them the power to terminate or destroy any talent whose behavior, real or perceived, threatened the studio brand. That language still exists today. It just evolved. Fast forward to 2022. Jennette McCurdy, you know her as Sam from iCarly, publishes a memoir called I'm Glad My Mom Died. In it, she reveals something that should have made front-page news. Nickelodeon offered her $300,000. Not as a bonus, not as a raise. $300,000 to never speak publicly about what she experienced working for them. That is a non-disclosure agreement functioning exactly the way a civil death clause is designed to function. You take the money. You lose your truth. McCurdy turned the money down. She wrote the book instead. That decision cost her a career she'd already walked away from. Most people take the check. Here's where the contract stops being about behavior and starts being about identity. The music industry has a structure called the 360 deal. On paper, it sounds like a partnership. The label invests in your career. They take a percentage of everything. Touring, merchandise, endorsements, streaming, acting roles, everything. But there is a clause inside some of these deals that most artists don't read until it's too late. Post-mortem image rights. The company doesn't just own your music while you're alive. They own you after you die. Prince. In 1993, Prince appeared publicly with the word slave written on his cheek. Every entertainment outlet called it bizarre, erratic, a cry for attention. It wasn't any of those things. Prince was in the middle of a legal battle with Warner Brothers over ownership of his master recordings, the original recorded versions of every song he'd made for them. Under his contract, Warner owned those masters. Prince could not release new music without their approval. He could not license his own songs. He could not perform them freely. He owned nothing he had created, so he stopped using his name. Because Warner owned that too, he replaced it with a symbol, an unpronounceable glyph, that existed outside the scope of their contract. It was not a breakdown. It was the most legally sophisticated protest in music industry history. More recently, Megan Thee Stallion. Despite being one of the most commercially successful artists in the world, she spent years publicly battling her label over the right to release her own music. She was not allowed to put out new songs without the label's approval. She sued. She fought. She eventually won partial relief through the courts. But here's what most people missed. These battles cannot be fought in open court. There is a clause that makes sure of that. The arbitral dispute clause. It means every conflict gets resolved in private, behind closed doors, decided by arbitrators the company often helps select. The system isn't rigged. The system is the contract. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever noticed the timing? The public breakdowns, the erratic behavior, the hospitalizations? Look at when they happen. They almost always occur right at the moment an artist starts talking. This isn't about mocking anyone's mental health. This is about pattern recognition. Orlando Brown, a Disney Channel star who began making a series of public statements, some incoherent, some surprisingly specific, about what happened to him inside the industry. He was dismissed, discredited, his statements treated as symptoms. Amanda Bynes, a Nickelodeon star with no prior mental health history who became the subject of a conservatorship at the exact moment her behavior became public and unpredictable. I'm not here to diagnose either of them. I'm not a doctor, but I want you to consider something that lawyers and entertainment journalists have begun discussing quietly in trade publications. What if a formal psychiatric diagnosis is the most efficient way to legally and socially discredit someone who is about to violate an NDA? A diagnosis cannot be sued. A person labeled unstable has no credibility in arbitration. The term that keeps appearing in blind items, the anonymous tips that circulate among entertainment insiders, is corporocracy, a condition in which corporate structures hold more legal and social power over individuals than the state or public institutions. In a corporocracy, you don't need to silence someone with threats. You silence them by making the world believe they can't be trusted. The contract doesn't need to do the silencing directly. The narrative does it for free. So let's come back to the original question. Why do the biggest stars in the world agree to be silenced? Because the contract isn't designed to make them rich. It's designed so that by the time they realize what they've signed away, they no longer have the resources, the platform, or the legal standing to fight back. The contract is not about money. The contract is about making sure you are never the owner of your own truth. Fatty Arbuckle lost his career to public opinion engineered by the studios. Prince fought for years and won, but only after renaming himself to escape the contract's reach. Jennette McCurdy turned down the money and paid the price. And the ones who didn't, who took the check and went quiet. We don't know their names, because the contract worked. The next time a celebrity disappears overnight, when their social media goes dark and their label releases a statement about personal reasons, ask yourself one question. What clause did they trigger? I want to know what you think. Is the fame worth it? Is the platform worth the contract? Or is the price, your voice, your truth, your identity, too high? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you know someone who still thinks these contracts are just about money, share this video with them. Because the only way these clauses lose their power is when enough people know they exist.